about the time we were sick and we were praying, there's this Muslim teacher in the villages 2 hours from where we lived, up in the mountains, who was sick and dying. He had 4 wives, 4 houses, and quite an influence in the Muslim community. And he was selling off his possessions to go to witch doctors and doctors to be healed. He had what they call, Sunnis call a sharp disease, which everyone dies from. And he was down to living in his father-in-law's kitchen, the father-in-law of the last wife he had. And finally he went off to this holy place, a big banyan tree on top of a mountain, and he went to die. And when he went there, he fasted and he prayed over and over, whoever made me, take me, or heal me. And he says about 2 days later, he was awakened by this spiritual being that was walking toward him. He said it sounded like someone walking with heavy shoes down a hallway, clomp, 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 clomp. And he's wakened up, and this person has bright and shining clothes, and he approaches him and says, "What do you want?" "I want to be healed." He touched him, and he was immediately healed. And then he said to him, "Go to such and such a man's house, and you'll get a book that will change your life." Well, the such and such a man was probably the only Sudanese believer within miles, and he had a Sudanese New Testament. And he was scared silly of this imam. So he gave him the New Testament and told me about it. And I went to visit him. And this was a life-changing event. This is where I started learning things that I'm still utilizing today. I go up to see this guy, and I'd stay in his home, which is a simple little hut, wooden floors, no furniture, woven bamboo walls, wind blows through it, that kind of stuff. And he was just fascinated reading this New Testament. He'd read it over and over and over, and then we'd talk about it for hours. And then he'd say, "What about this Holy Spirit? Who's this Holy Spirit?" And I'd tell him. And I'd share, 500 verses in the Holy Spirit. And next week I'd go back and we'd spend hours in the scriptures, and then he'd ask, "What's this Holy Spirit?" And this went on for weeks. He only had one thing in his mind: what's this Holy Spirit? And I'm getting to thinking, I've got not much more to do, but this guy's really dumb. He don't get it. And then one day he got it. And here's the verse that made the penny drop. It put it all together for him, his understanding of the gospel. I'm going to read it to you. John 14:20. "On that day you will realize that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I am in you." Get it? I don't. I've never understood why that brought everything together for him. But it did. And I believe at that time he trusted Christ, and immediately he started sharing the gospel with his people and went. Probably a couple dozen people came to Christ within a month. Because he could communicate it. He understood it. I still don't understand it. But he did. Now I started going up to this village, and these people would come together, and we would meet together. I spent several dozen nights, many dozen nights, sleeping up there on the wood floor and freezing, eating corn, or if they had it, something like that. And I learned something else that to me is critical to the movement of the gospel, and that is this. This guy could speak some Indonesian. I spoke fairly decent Sundanese, also could speak Indonesian, but village Sundanese was beyond me at that point. So here he's got 10, 12 people who would gather and spend hours together, and I'm the teacher, right? I just can't communicate with the guys. So what I'd do is I would sit down with the man I call Cornelius, and we would go through what he's gonna talk about for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and then he'd talk, and he'd lead the discussion. But what happened was the teaching stayed intact in their language, in his style of Islamic teaching, and all the relationships were intact. All because of my inadequacy. Well, it's a wonderful tactic to move the gospel away from yourself as fast as possible, to move yourself out of the center as fast as possible.